There you go.
Okay. We have some clients from out of town. Hi, clients from out of town. Who want us to record? So I came up with this first. This idea of cognitive contraband, and Matt was like, "What does that even mean?" Like, and I'm like, it's like stuff you're not supposed to have around, because that's what he called contraband when he first started the program, and I was not on the program. He would point at the cookies and yell contraband. It's a fully shading event that I don't recommend. But I was so I'm a therapist, and I work with teenage girls that are super, super naughty, and I was sitting with a client in September, and contraband is something we talk about a lot, things that they aren't supposed to have. So this girl has some really serious problems, and she self-harms a lot. And she literally, you can take her in the yard, and we have a very sterile environment. That's the kind of environment we have, and she can find contraband anywhere. It does not matter where it is, but she can find it. If you were in a padded room, she could find you contraband, I can swear. Because she's so focused on her goal. And so I thought, so I was having this conversation with her, and we were talking about all this, and I was like, it does not matter, right? It does not matter what I do to you, because the contraband is not in your environment, it's in your head. That thought process, that belief, that core belief that you have is in your head. And so we're going to talk about kind of what that looks like for a lot of us, because a lot of the behaviors we have a hard time changing comes from the contraband that's in our head, not the cookies. Oh, look. So, in Dr. A's book, Habits of Health, he starts off by saying it's not your fault you're struggling, right? So if you've read the book, you'll be familiar with this. But that our body is geared towards preparing for danger, preparing for famine, for preparing for all kinds of things and responding to our environment. So the more experience you've had with emotional, physical, temporal danger, the more you are going to be geared to store, right? Whatever that is, to store emotionally, to store physically, to store body fat, whatever you want to do, you're geared to store. And we're designed to do that. And so if you're like, why does my body do this? That's why. So we're going to talk a little bit about why it's not your fault, but also how to understand and get over it, because you're still in control, right? You're not actually a caveman. Okay. Hi, Sarah, come on in. So the first thing I want to tell you is sugar is not evil, right? That a lot of people get around the holidays, and I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't pass up this thing, or I couldn't do this." There's nothing wrong with sugar. It has a role in your life. Maybe not meant to be the starring role in your life, but it has a role in your life. And in fact, as we read about sugar, it's actually one of the reasons that, if we even go back to moms that are nursing, that breast milk is sweet. Because we are meant to, it teaches us to crave those things and to nourish our bodies. And so there was a quote again that said, "We were born with preferences for sweets or taste buds prefer sugar because we can." And I want you to look at the words I bolded. Safely, it should be safely, sorry. Digest it. It supports our body's functions. Our brains connect sugar with pleasure, and because that relationship has allowed us to survive. So when we start thinking about what sugar does for us, it's no wonder that we've become good friends, right? If you have somebody who's giving you safety, support, pleasure, and survival, you should be friends, right? Not codependent, but you should be friends, okay? So when your kids are going trick-or-treating, I always love this. My dad, I always thought some candy was just gross because my dad knew that was his candy, so whatever you got on Halloween, I just didn't taste some candies for years because that's the way it goes, right? So I thought that was funny. That made me think of Halloween. But we're going to talk about it. But I want you to think about that because this goes into your emotional needs. We're not talking about physical needs. Most of us don't need that much sugar in our lives. We need some, but we don't need that much. But we do need safety, support, pleasure, and survival. And so when we stop thinking about sugar as, I need this, when we start thinking about it as any pleasure or any support or any comfort or all those things, you're going to start thinking about it differently, and you're going to be able to deal with what's really going on inside your head. Okay. Some of you have heard of this before. This is the drama triangle. Okay. The drama triangle has 3 parts, right? The victim, this is the person who people are being mean to. The villain, this is the person being the jerk, right? I gave you visuals. This is the hero who's going to save the day, right? So the problem is with our relationship with sugar, we've created drama, right? Sugar is either our villain, I must avoid it at all costs. It's our hero, I will only feel better, right? Harry Potter has set us up for this. Sugar will save you, right? Or it goes back to that safety and survival. Or we're the victim, meaning I can't control myself. We're just the victim. And so when we start thinking about this, our relationship with food comes about how we see it in relation to those emotional needs. Again, you're talking about avoiding, feeling better, and control. Those are all emotional needs, right? Safety, avoiding is part of safety, if you look at that word. Feeling better is part of security. And then victim is feeling control over your environment. So now we're not talking about sugar, we're not talking about cookies, we're not talking about candy, we're talking about your emotional needs and how much those are or aren't getting met. Okay, so you've all heard this, right? The thoughts build habit. If you haven't, it's here, you've not heard it. You say, watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become your habits. Watch your habits for they become your character. And watch your character for they become your destiny. And when we look at our before pictures for Matt and I, you can look at our wedding pictures. I've been overweight my whole life, but I am now smaller than I was in high school by far. But those came from, not from being fed differently. I have 3 other siblings. We were all fed exactly the same. But I had a lot of thoughts. I had a lot of contraband going on in my thoughts. And that drove some other things. And so that's why when we talk about this, it's not about, I'm destined, right? I'm just big bone. Or I just am meant to be this way. Or, those kinds of thoughts are limiting beliefs. And they come in. So I want you to see that brain power grows when we use it. If you've said that this is just my habit, you've stopped growth. And so I'm going to encourage you to think about this differently. Okay. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but that's okay. I guess that's my job. Okay, so we're going to talk about a habit. Whenever something happens, right? So if we see the reward, right, and we're talking about chocolate or candy or something. So if the reward is the reward, there has to be a cue, a craving, and a response. All of that comes. I don't just reward myself for no reason. But what happens is, if I say, right, let's go back to Harry Potter, right? Figured I'd do a different movie other than Karate Kid. That's fine. But if I go, every time you're scared and you feel lonely and hopeless, right? This is what Dementors do, right? Then you have someone bring you chocolate and you'll feel better. And Harry Potter has not taught us all how to be addicted to sugar and never be lonely again, right? Because people who eat sugar are never lonely. Lies. Okay? But the difference between destiny is this is all it is a result of this cycle. Every time that you are choosing the reward behavior, it's a result of this cycle. So, what you see in your life affects your actions. So if I say, growing up, right, if you look in most kitchens, there's one in my kitchen, above the microwave there is a cupboard. Any of you have a cupboard above your microwave? Mm-hmm. Yes. In my home, that was Dad's cupboard. Right? I think it was because for a long time we couldn't reach it, but we climbed, so, and it had Dad's treats in it, right? And so what I saw is that as you get older and you have more control over your life, you get more sweets, right? Now, I guarantee you my dad did not think that through, okay? He was not thinking that through, and he had to figure that out eventually for himself. But as you see life and the little things around you, I picked up cues. It was all modeled for me. Same thing, right? I watched enough chick flicks. If a boy disappoints you, you eat ice cream, right? If you're single till you're 34, Ben and Jerry's your friend. I mean, these things become really just modeled for you in your life, okay? But we're going to talk about the difference between indulgence and gluttony. Because a lot of people, I hear a lot of people as we're coaching people who are like, I cheated. I hate hearing that word, I cheated. Because if you really cheated, you're only cheating yourself. But the truth is, you did one of two things. You either indulged or you were gluttonous. Those are your choices, right? So last week, true story, I indulged. I told Matt, he's not happy about this. I told Matt, I'm going to Disneyland and I'm going to have a macaroon. And he's like, you don't need a macaroon. Multiple times during this trip, he told me this, and I said, no, you're right. I don't need it, but I have decided this is my treat. I'm not eating. I will eat salads every other meal. I will walk 50 miles, but I'm going to indulge in a macaroon, and you can either get it with me or you can get out of my way. These are your options after 50 miles.
And then we went to the bakery and they didn't have any. So we went back for breakfast.
They didn't have any, that's true. But we went back, no worries. And it was worth it. Okay? Except for it threw me out of fat burn, and that's not any fun. But the difference is when we really make a mistake, and we sabotage ourselves, it's usually because of gluttony. Now, we don't like to use the word gluttony because it's a Bible term and it makes you all feel shame, right? Just use the word gluttony and you'll suddenly feel shame. The whole world would be like, no. But we all have moments of gluttony, right? Halloween is a really good example, right? It is social gluttony. It's fine. I accept it. It's going to be okay. Your kids are going to go through it. We're all going to live. But it is gluttony. It's habitual, right? Habit. October 31st of every year, what do? We dress our kids up. Huh?
Because I started November 1st.
Right. We give the candy away to the kids so they can take it home to their parents so the parents can steal it so that they can eat it until Christmas, in which we just get more food, right? And from October 31st until December 30th, if you work in any kind of marketing, when Matt worked at the big home developer, they just bring you food every day. And the sweeter, the better. The more sugar. We were introduced not too many years ago to what we lovingly refer to as crack cookies. And this was by a marketing person that worked at Matt, so I would have never known. But he introduced me and it brought me pleasure and safety and security and I, had a relationship. But we need to understand the difference because if we're indulging, this is coming in if you can do it in a healthy way. But if you're gluttonous, we're stuck in this cycle. And that's why it's habitual, right? Is that you have a cue, and the cue can be emotional, it can be mental, it can be physical. You have a cue, and I'm rewarding myself with food. Okay? All right. Next. So we're going to talk about types of thoughts. Okay? So in some of the most groundbreaking therapy there is called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. You do not have to remember that. EMDR is what it's called. But we talk about positive and negative cognitions. And this is what I want to teach you is because the contraband comes in your negative cognition. And we all have them. I have them. I sometimes store them in my closet. I sometimes hold them out when I'm driving. We all have them, okay? So, but we're going to talk about it because there's themes, right? And the habits exist in our thoughts. And they come from these cognitive beliefs. And these beliefs have followed you for a long time. You can create new ones. I'm not saying you can't. And you can get rid of old ones. But no matter what's going on, you have a cognitive belief about yourself. And you probably have a list. But the list can be broken down. So there's 4 themes. And this is constantly running through your mind. So there's 2 types of responsibility. One responsibility is, am I good enough? Right? Anyone have any thoughts about am I good enough? Maybe? This may also look like I'm not good enough. I'm never good enough. I will never be good enough. We'll talk about what it looks like. And am I capable? Right? I could have done better. Then there's safety and vulnerability. Right? This This is, am I safe? Can I handle this? Those kinds of things. And then this is control, right? I can control my situation or I can't. And if you break these down into these things, you start to see how our cognitive functions work. So I'm gonna, I don't know what I just did now.
The right button. Can you shut it off?
Well, nobody knows if I shut it off. Do you guys know if I shut it off? How am I supposed to know?
You broke it. Space bar.
Right? Whoa.
Oh, Matt.
Hit it again. Hit the space bar again.
That's why we call you Vanna. Okay, next.
There you go.
Okay. Hi, come on in, guys. Okay, so we're going to talk about what negative cognitions look like, right? And this is just your belief system. And I'm going over, and you'll see the same themes, right? So responsibility, I kind of put together, safety, vulnerability, and control or choice. These are the negative thoughts they're cueing your negative habits, right? So you can name your negative habits. You don't have to right now. That's not this kind of group. But you can name them. Everybody knows their negative habits, and if you don't know what they are, go to somebody you live with. They will help you with the list, okay? But behind all those negative habits come these negative cognitions about ourselves. So if we're somebody who struggles with belief about responsibility, we say things like, I did something wrong, right? People are constantly worried. I do or don't deserve something, meaning I do deserve pain. I don't deserve joy. I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. My body is hateful or ugly. I'm not important. I deserve to be miserable or I don't belong. Now you can see when we talk about contraband, this is contraband. These things are dangerous to think, right? We want to go over to safety and vulnerability. I cannot be trusted. I hear that a lot, especially with food. I can't be trusted. I can't trust myself, meaning other people can't trust me, but I can't trust myself. I cannot protect myself against things. I'm in danger. It's not okay to show emotion is a safety and vulnerability one. And I can't trust anyone else. You'll see a lot of trust there. And then control and choice, negative cognitions. And these are general. I've got a full list. These are some general ones, though. I'm not in control, right? I am powerless or helpless. I'm weak. I can't get what I want out of the situation. I can't be successful. I have to be perfect or I'm a people pleaser. And I can't stand it, right? Notice how none of these feel good, right? Like in your heart, you're like reading these and like, that's a gross feeling. Okay, let's move on. Okay? Positive cognitions. This is what we do to replace them. Okay? Is you need to take, so if you, I'll go back to the first one for a minute. If you take this and you look on your list, and if you pick one, you don't have to tell me which one it is, but you just pick one, right? And we're going to pick I'm not in control because it's up here in the corner close to my hand. That's the only reason I picked it. And we're going to go to these ones, right? And I'll go through real quick. Responsibility. If I change, I can't be trusted to, I can be trusted, I can take care of myself, I can feel my emotions, I did the best I could, I'm learning to do better. These are all the things you say to your kids, right, when you're building them back up. I'm strong, I can make mistakes, still be myself, it's okay, I can handle things. Safety and vulnerability, I deserve love, I am a good person, I am enough, I am worthy, I can be healthy, I can prioritize myself, I am lovable, and then over here, I deserve to have help. I am intelligent or able to learn something, I am important, I am okay just the way I am, and I deserve to have a good life. So every negative cognition comes.
There's plenty of seats.
There's plenty of seats. Go ahead.
Or you can throw the pillows off the couch.
Yeah. But they come with the opposite. And they're not always directly opposite, but when I sit and I'm doing therapy, and normally this is trauma work, I'll be really honest, this is trauma work. Figuring out what your negative cognition is and replacing it, that's trauma. Everyone you know is traumatized. Some people just have cooler stories than others. Or worse stories, however way you want to look at it, right? But if I have something in my life, see what there, honey? See, don't trust me, guys. I don't dare
Tap the mouse again.
Tap the mouse. Yeah, don't
Or
trust
leave
me.
it alone.
Okay. But if you take "I cannot be trusted," that message was told to you multiple times. You've probably had other experiences to say that you can't be trusted, but remember how we said it's not your fault and your body was built to find danger, right? Well, shame is a type of danger. So not being trustworthy, if I can't be trusted, I'm not going to try. Because I'm not an idiot, I'm not going to set myself up for failure. If I do believe that I can be trusted, or I can learn, or I can grow, then I'm willing to try. And so these are directly related to what those lessons are for you in your life. We all have them, and they're powerful. Yes.
Is that a typo? I can't. Or a typo? Should be I can?
Yes.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah, I do typos. That's my
I was
thing.
thinking in my head about just like, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
nobody knows how I made it through grad school, but I did. So, typos. My mom's an English major. She may have looked at every paper I wrote. Sorry, guys.
No, that's cool.
But yeah. Yeah, so these are things, and I was going to have Matt print out a list. We can print out a list, though. I have a list of the negative and positives. They're easy to find, or I can post them on Facebook. They're a much more extensive list. This is just a little list. But if I can take those two things for a client, and I can identify what's your negative cognition, what do you want it to be, we can do work around that. Now, I'm not saying that's a one day's worth of work. It depends on how deep-seated it is. But usually that core belief is rooted in some kind of traumatic event. And trauma can be, again, emotional, physical, thought trauma, right? It could be as much as I failed. That can be a traumatic event for someone. We can call them small t's, big t's. If it's trauma, it's trauma in my opinion. I did it again.
Double click on the image.
Double click on what? Guys, I have no skill in this. He's sure cute, guys. You know, he's cute. Thanks, honey. Okay. So here's what happened, right? We talked earlier, right, about emotional needs. We talked about how food even meets our emotional needs, right? Safety, security, comfort, those kinds of things. Pleasure, those are emotional needs. Emotional triggers, right? We experience things from our contraband. Lonely, pain, anxiety, right? And they result in our habits. And it is like an equation. It is very much like an equation. If the right person needs safety, is feeling lonely, they're going to have a habit change. That this is just going to happen. So if I can't just go to them, and this is the problem with what they call behavioral therapy, okay, where we just say don't do that and someone knocks the donut out of your hand. This is the problem with the donut knocking theory, okay? You cannot just say stop doing your habit. Because if I cover that up, is there anything left? There's a lot left. There's a lot going on in every person. Because they have emotional needs, and they have crap going on, and if I knock the donut out, they will switch to brownies. Because we are evolved people. We can move on, right? So we can't just say don't do your habit. We have to do other things. And that's one of the things I love about the Optivia program is that it addresses this part of it. That there is a mind aspect to changing your behaviors, right? I didn't gain weight because I was an idiot. I did not gain weight and keep weight on because I was not emotionally healthy necessarily, but I had a lot of things going on for me that I had to figure out, and I needed the tools to help me, because here's the other thing, I would have a little bit of success. So if you know that I had weight loss surgery moons ago, right? 12 years ago? Right? And that's supposed to be the answer. Ask the doctors. They will take lots of your money to do it. Right? But it didn't work because it didn't teach me how to manage anything else, and it didn't actually give me any tools. Okay, so if you're still in a codependent relationship with chocolate or any other kind of sugar, I'm going to talk to you about what's really going on and break this down in another way. Okay? Unhealthy habits means that you're doing something, like something is going on for you and you're responding to the emotions of your body or the vibrations and feelings right? And generally in the areas of scarcity, fear, insecurity, anxiety. And you are having a fight, flight, freeze, fake, or fake response. Sorry. Okay, so give me an example of a trigger, something that triggers you. Yes.
Ours was our kids having meltdowns at home.
Okay, your kid's screaming, right? Everyone in a 5-mile radius is now triggered, right? And that's how it feels as a parent. They're triggered, right? So your first thing you're going to do is fight the kid and tell them to be quiet. Very first response, right? If that works, every time the kid is quiet, you will continue to fight them because it works. If the fighting doesn't work, or the fleeing doesn't work, meaning you're avoiding them, you're not listening to them, sorry, I missed that. This is the, I'm not listening to you, I'm going to ignore your screams. Then I can't do it anymore because my nervous system is overwhelmed, right? And so now I'm going to yell at you because I'm a human adult, and we can all pretend like you don't yell at kids, but that's not true, right? We're blaming them, we're going to argue with them, and we're now asking the 2-year-old to fix us emotionally because you're screaming, you caused the problem, you can fix me, right? And of course, like all adults in that situation, we end up feeling more frustrated, and we freeze, right? And freezing can look like a lot. Freezing can look like this concept of, they talk about fainting and paranoia. Emotional freezing, though, is I don't know what to do. I'm done. We're leaving. Right? This is a version of freezing. Or there's nothing I can do. This is the parent in the line, and the kid is just screaming and kicking at their feet. They're frozen. You know, do all the judgments you want on that parent, but that parent is in a crisis state. Or this fake, right? Now I've just justified, I'm actually choosing to let my child scream this out. It's been 2 hours, but I am choosing to let the kid scream, right? Because I have been out of control for so long, and it's so uncomfortable for me to be out of control, that I'm now faking control, right? And this happened when I went through years of being overweight. This happened. I don't even think I realized it at the time, but I was so over the avoiding talking about weight, getting the surgery, not seeing anything happen, so ignoring it, to now I'm literally going to be the president of the Fat and Happy Club. That's my goal. I have faked it. I've justified it. It's okay. I am lovable. It's true. I am lovable. That it doesn't matter what it says I am, but we go through this. What all of these mean is you're in a stage of crisis. Yes.
Can you repeat or go through these a couple times?
Oh,
or
yeah,
just
you can jump.
one direction.
So some people, once you've hit crisis, it takes 45 minutes to get back to baseline for an emotionally healthy adult, right? Or you fall asleep. That's right. That's your prayer for your kid, is that they're going to fall asleep. Right? Which resets baseline. But some people don't actually hit baseline. Depending on your level of trauma and how you've been triggered, you can be triggered for years. That doesn't sound like fun. I suggest professional help at that point, but you can be triggered, and you can be triggered all day, right? So if you woke up and had an argument with your spouse, and the spouse left for work, and you're like, finally, you're out of here. I think I can get back to baseline, right? And then you get a call from the school that so-and-so has wet his pants. So you're in crisis now because you have shame because, oh my gosh, my kid wasn't potty trained, even though, kindergartens have problems. And so you go and you fix that, and then you haven't eaten. Now you feel like, oh, I'm not a good parent because I didn't feed my other kids. So I'm still in shame, and I'm walking through crisis, and I'm just moving from area and area to crisis. So you can stay in crisis all day if you don't ever figure out how to get back to baseline. And part of that is this then ties into my negative cognitions, right? Because when I'm frozen, do I feel capable? No. Do I feel like I can be trusted? No. So it feeds into all of those negative cognitions.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. Okay.
You know what I just imagined right there?
Yeah.
Smoking and the Bandit. I don't know if you ever saw that, but he has this little beeper on his head. It goes, home.
Right?
Home.
Yeah.
Home.
So, and this is why learning to control your emotions is such a big part of this. And this is why people are like, once they've had it, most people will say, well, once you've indulged, if you feel shame about the indulgence, right? I didn't feel any shame. No matter how much Matt tried to give me shame, I felt no shame over my cookie, you guys. None. In fact, my next vacation, I'm doing it again, and I've already told him, okay? And he's gonna get on board, or he's gonna lose out. Because there's no shame, I could also, the next day, step right back into my program, and I'm fine. Because I'm not ashamed. I don't think I'm a failure. I think I made a choice. I'm a grown-up. I can be trusted, right? I can learn how to figure this out, and it's very different. And I got home, and I lost 3 pounds, and Matt lost none, and I think it's the shame. It's the shame. It's not the shame.
And it wasn't the next day either. It was 2 hours later when we went to dinner again. You were back on track.
Right. It wasn't the next day. Yes, that's good. It was just, that was that moment, that choice that I made.
I
So,
was trying to make up for it by saying that.
it's okay. Matt comes by his shame honestly. It was given to him. He's just sharing it. So, as we all do. So we're not going to shame the shame. It's just part of what we are. Okay. So one of the things we talk about then is actions, right? So what happens then when you've got your thoughts and then you have these behaviors? Well, one of the things that we talk about is living above or below the line. This comes from the book 15 something lessons from conscious leadership. I have to remember it. I can't remember the title. It's 15 conscious and leadership is all in there though.
15 commitments of conscious.
There you go.
Thank you. Yes, 15 commitments of conscious leadership. Talks about this idea of above and below line. And I brought this up because when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we're below the line. Okay? Now, that does not mean you're bad. We all live below the line sometimes. I have had excuses. I've had failure. I've had fear. You have to live on both sides of the line. But if I'm aware that I'm on one side of the line or the other and I don't want to be, then I also have to know how to change that, right? But it's about how you respond. And if I'm in fear and if I'm in crisis, then I'm going to respond in these ways. So think about it. If I pull scarcity out, right? Scarcity is the belief that there is not enough. There's not enough. And it could be a lot of things. It's not always there's not enough chocolate. I know people who have plenty of chocolate in their house. But maybe there's not enough love. There's not enough acceptance, right? If we go back to emotional needs, there's not enough security. There's not enough approval. There's not enough affection. All of those things. So when I'm in this mode and I'm in scarcity, I'm more likely to go back to my habitual trigger, right? And this becomes the cue. When we talked about the 4 steps, this becomes the cue, the blame, the failure. The same thing, though, if I am in acceptance, that cues me to a different habit. If I'm in feedback, right, and I'm willing to hear and I want to hear, you're going to get a completely different response out of me. And so this isn't about good or bad, and that's what's really important. It's about just knowing, am I in crisis, and how am I making decisions? And if I know I'm in crisis and I'm making bad decisions, then I can pull back and I can say, I shouldn't make this decision right now. Now is not the time, right? But if I'm not in crisis, or if I can find someone else who's not in crisis who can help me, this will help us, okay? But this is just about how you respond. And this is all driven, right? All of these go back to thoughts. Remember when we talked about your cognitive contraband? It goes back to your thoughts. This is all a result. Okay, sometimes another way we talk about this is that they use the model, what's called the model from the Life Coach School, and we talk about circumstances. It does not matter whether I'm at Disneyland, right, or if I'm at home on a Friday night, or if I just want an award. My circumstances are neutral. It's what's going on inside my head that matters. And so I hope as we talked about that tonight, that's what you realize is that it doesn't matter what party you go to this holiday season. It does not matter which candy bar your kid gets, whether you're going to eat it, whether you're going to indulge or not, or be gluttonous, right? And don't feel too much shame over that word, right? I know gluttonous is a terrible word. But it all depends on what's going on inside your mind. If you believe I'm capable, I have willpower, I can do this, you can have all the candy in the world around me, it'll be fine. All right? But if you think I can't do it, you put one piece of candy and it's over, one piece of candy killed it. But the candy had no power. It's just like the circumstance. It's just candy, right? It had no actual power. Otherwise, Hershey's would rule the world. All right, so that's kind of what I want to talk about, cognitive Contraband, that's a word. I think you're up. Yeah, do what you gotta do. Yeah, that's you. You must be up.
That's me. That's me a month ago. Almost a month ago. So, back in, I want to tell you a little bit about why Jen and I started doing this. Back in November and December of this last year, I was at a point, health-wise and mentally, that I wasn't really wanting to leave the house. I was kind of in a dark spot. Physically, I didn't feel like I could actually go out and do very much of anything. I probably hadn't gone to the grocery store in a year or more, or more. And kind of was to the point where my doctor kept upping my meds every couple of weeks that I'd go in and see him and saying, okay, Matthew, your cholesterol level's too high, or your blood pressure's too high, or your insulin, your blood sugars are too high. And he was to the point he was going to put me on insulin, and I said, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with giving myself a shot every day, or multiple times a day. Jen and I had done multiple rounds of IVF, and just giving her a shot was not an okay thing. And so I'm like, no, I am not okay with that. And so I actually had started looking at doing weight loss surgery, knowing that Jen had done it before she and I knew each other, and also knew it wasn't successful for her. I was to the point where that seemed like that was the only option that I had. And so I actually had set up the appointment, and the morning I was going to do the consultation, Salt Lake Paper ran a big article about different clinics, and one that I actually was looking at being in a major lawsuit because there people were ending up in the hospital for 6 and 9 plus months at a time. And I decided I couldn't do that. That's worse than having no life at all. Like, that would bankrupt us. We would lose everything. Like, I'm not doing that. And so I kind of had just gone to the point where I'm like, I will just make sure my wife's got a good life insurance policy. We'll make sure the house is paid off, and I'll live a few more years, and we'll make sure she's set up. And I was okay with that. And I wasn't okay with that, but that was the justification you give yourself when you feel like you're out of options. And so I had been seeing some posts on Facebook, similar to what Jen and I post quite often, actually, from my health coach, Gina, who is here with us tonight, which is amazing, and reached out to her and asked, okay, what are you doing? Because whatever she was doing was working, and it was working very fast. And I'm like, I need to do something. So she and I got on the phone. And actually Nancy was on the phone with us as well. We probably talked for a good hour, 45 minutes or more. And they asked, okay, what would it mean to you if you could drop some of this weight? And if you could get some of these different activities back in your life? And we went on and talked about that for quite a while. And then they came to the point, okay, well, Matthew, what's your goal? How much weight do you want to lose? And I said, well, I would love to lose 100 pounds in a year. And I immediately stopped the conversation right there. I said, but that's not realistic for me. I said, I've tried everything. I've done gyms. I've done different things. It's not realistic. Let's shoot for 40 pounds in a year. Okay. And so they both just kind of, yep, okay, didn't really say much. And yeah, right. And so the box showed up, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. And then they let it sit on the kitchen floor for 2 weeks. And didn't open it. And I blamed it on the excuse that we were getting ready to sell our previous house, and it was right after the holidays. And I came up with every excuse in the world as to why I wasn't ready to do this. Then I went back to the doctor again, and he's like, here's the prescription to get your insulin shots that you're going to need next time you're in here. He's like, I'm not going to give it to you this week, but next time you're in next month, this is the next one you're getting. And I'm like, I have a plan. He's like, well, what is it? Because he'd been talking to me for a good while before this. And I said, well, I have a box on the kitchen floor. And he's like, what? You have a box on the kitchen floor? And so I told him a little bit about what it was, and he's like, well, I don't know what that is. It sounds like it is a good thing. I said, I don't care. He's like, I don't care what you try. Do something. And he's like, send me some information, but go and do it. And so I went home and talked with Gina again and said, okay, I'm starting Monday morning. This is what we're doing. And I jumped right in. And so the first couple of days they weren't necessarily bad. I could tell there was definitely a difference in what I was doing already. And then I kind of got through the first month, and I got an email. It was time to either continue on or send the box back and get my money back. And I had already printed the form because, like I said, I was giving every excuse in the world why this program wasn't going to work. And I had it ready. It was going back. And so I got that email, and I said, okay, well, I guess I should actually see if this is doing anything. And so I went and got on the scale, and I dropped 39 pounds in 27 days. So I'm like, oh crap, this is actually working. So I'm like, okay, well, if this is going to work, let's give it another 30 days and go from there. And so that was the end of February by that point. And so now that picture was the end of September at 196 down. As of today, I'm down to 212. So that has been amazing. I still have a ways to go. And I do get asked quite a bit, has it slowed down a little bit? Well, it definitely is not 40 pounds a month anymore. But the first month never continues like that. But I'm still averaging about 20, 22 pounds a month, as long as I'm actually sticking on the plan. And the days that I actually increase exercise, it stops altogether. So that's kind of interesting too, because what I always associate with losing weight is you go work at the gym for 3 hours, and that doesn't do it for me. So that's been a very different thing too. But to tell you a little bit about kind of what Optavia is, there's basically 4 main components of it. And what I really enjoyed is having a health coach. Like I said, Gina's mine, Nancy is Gina's coach, and now Jen and I actually are coaching others as well. And it's been a huge blessing in ours. And then there's the Habits of Health, the education system we'll talk about here in a minute. Community is amazing. It's groups like this that get together. We do all kinds of in-person events like this at people's homes or different. We do another big one at Boondocks that's coming up again next week. And there's stuff all over the place. And then the fueling of the food program that goes along with it has been amazing. So we can talk a little bit about that. But basically, a health coach is there to ask questions for you to partner up with. They're a person to give you encouragement and support when you need to. Like Jen said, they're not the donut police. They're not going to come slap a donut out of your mouth, because no one's going to ever call them if they did. That's just not what they're for. They're really just there to be your personal cheering squad and to help you with whatever you need. And so that's been amazing. And everybody gets a health coach who does our program for free. There's no cost to that. That's just, it's a one-on-one thing with them. And sometimes there's additional mentors. Like when I first started, Gina was just starting as well, so Nancy was involved. And so there's a huge group of people there to support you as well. So that's been amazing. The Habits of Health system, this book and the Life book, they're actually both sitting on that table right there if anyone wants to look at them, are done by Dr. Wayne Scott Anderson, who is a doctor who's used to do major trauma work all over, world-renowned guy, and decided he was tired of fixing people or trying to fix people after they gotten sick, and he wanted to be more proactive. And so he partnered up with some other people and came up with the education side of our company. And this is the new release. This Life book basically is a guide to help you go through. There's 26 or 27 elements in the book. It's meant to take you at least a year, if not more, to kind of go through one step at a time in a certain order to kind of get you to start working on the mental changes and the habits and different things like that. So that's been amazing. And they do all kinds of trainings and webinars and podcasts and things like that that anybody can get to for free. And so these are some of the things that he focuses on: healthy weight, healthy food and hydration, healthy motion, healthy mind, healthy surroundings, those kind of things. So it's huge, huge blessing to finally get this. There's stuff in this book that I had no clue. No clue. And I mean, definitely not a doctor, I'm an architect by career, but there's stuff in there that I would have never known had we not started this. And the nice part about this book is it's not written, I mean, he is a doctor, but this new version is not written as like a textbook. It's written as anybody can read it. It's super easy, super quick to run through. So that's an amazing. There's also now an app that goes with it that kind of helps you work on some of the things that go along with that Life book. That is really cool. Like I said, we talked a little bit about the community. We do events like this in people's homes. We do the big one up in Boondocks every couple of weeks. We have an online support group, multiple ones on Facebook. There's a big community one for the whole, basically our region. There's individual team ones. There's national one. I mean, they're huge. There's a nutrition support team. So we're not doctors. None of us are. At least I don't think any of us are. So we're not there to give medical advice. We're there to give encouragement and guidance. And if something comes up whether we don't know, we can get our client on the phone with the nutrition support team just about any time that they're open and get answers for them immediately. And that's been really good because not everybody is going to have the same response or the same abilities as others. And so some people may respond to certain things differently or need different adjustments. And so to have that actual support has been amazing and been really good. The next one are the fuelings. So these are microbalanced, basically food options that go along with our plans. There's all kinds of different plans that they offer that people can do. There's some for those who need to do weight loss, some who are heavy exercising, some who are nursing mothers, some who are just looking to drop a couple extra pounds and optimize and work on building muscle and those kind of things. And so the fuelings are there as a tool to help you get to your goals. They're not necessarily meant for you to eat for the rest of your life. That's not what they're intended for. They're to help you get to where you need to go while you're going through the life book, through some of the mental work that takes to maintain your goals once you get to them. So yeah, you use those for as long or as little as you need to. You can continue to eat them as long as you want. You know a lot of people still do because they're easy and convenient and good, but you don't have to. So that's an awesome thing. And then there's also, like I said, a lot of people who do the program decide to become a health coach if they want to help and share with other people. I'll be completely honest, I had no interest in being a health coach. I was approached by my best friend who I actually tried to get hooked up. He came to me and said, Matthew, I need to know what you're doing. And I said, okay, well, here's my coach's name and number. And he's like, okay. And you can tell he was kind of disappointed. A couple weeks later, actually it wasn't that, a week later, I talked to him again. I said, hey, did you call Gina? And he's like, no, I didn't. I said, well, why not? He said, I don't know her. I'm not going to call her. I barely want to talk to you about this. I'm not going to talk to somebody I don't know. And so I'm like, okay, well, you really should give her a call is what I told him. And so a couple more days went on, and he's like, Matthew, I want you to help me figure this out. He's like, whatever you're doing is working. You help me figure it out. And I said, okay, fine. I'm like, I'll help you, but I'm not doing this anymore. And then, I started sharing a little more with some other people that I knew just because they were asking, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so then as more people started coming to me at that point, I'm like, this is actually fun. I actually really enjoyed this. And I actually found I was at work and not wanting to be at work. And like I said, I love my architectural career. I had a great practice. We do really well. But I was bored. And there wasn't much fulfillment there. When you see a building go up and get built, that's great, but it takes 2 years. And this was like instant gratification. So for me, so you could talk with somebody, you could see the light in their eye again. And so it kind of really shifted at that point. I'm like, I really like this and enjoy this. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll see a little bit about it. At that point, I was basically to the point where helping 4 or 5 people was covering my monthly expense on the program. I'm like, well, this is the win-win. I'm enjoying talking with you guys I haven't talked with in a long time. My monthly subscription is paid for. I don't have to worry about it. And okay, cool. But that's great. So it's been kind of a new love of mine to be able to help other people and do this. And so by helping others, it's helped me as well stay more accountable to myself. And people ask a lot, how have I been able to drop 200 plus pounds in 9 months? And part of it is because of that, is because I'm actively thinking about it daily. And it's not just when it's time to eat, okay, this is the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm constantly, it's in my head, okay, this is the goal I'm going towards for me, and which changes constantly because I get to a new success and I'm like, okay, well now what? And I go to the next one and go to the next one. So it's been a great blessing to me to be able to help others to stay on my journey, and I have a long ways to go still, but I don't think I'll ever be done, but well, it's been good. So this kind of breaks down a little bit about what some costs, if somebody was interested in becoming a coach, could actually earn from doing this. And so the company pays really well. It's super easy if anybody wanted to get started and do this as a coach or not. There's no requirement. Nobody has to do it. It's only if you want to. So 5 clients basically gives you $345 a month, and it can build from there. And so as you continue to go up,
How do you find your clients? Like, do you get people that you don't know? Like, how?
you can get those. Most of them are people that you already know. I mean, that's how we started, as people that we knew immediately. Is they asked what we were doing, or we shared them. Hey, we think this could help you and some of your goals, and so we shared it with them. A lot of the other ones that we're getting is just starting to connect and interact with other people. We get quite a few clients right now are coming from Jen's work because she sits in a building with 100 employees, and so they're seeing the changes that are going on in our lives. Basically, we're walking billboards for us. There's other people who don't have a weight loss story who still do this and are making millions of dollars. And so it's really just interacting and connecting and being friendly with people and sharing a program with them.
And there's training as you go.
Yeah, and there is
like
tons
you
of
work
training.
with a mentor, and then so you start and you do the health assessments and go about finding people. So there's a process of like you're not just sent out there to do it. All the training is free. Coach Kit is a one-time fee of $199, and then from there, I mean you have a lot of training. So we've been doing it since. Well, I've been doing it since July. You've been doing it since May. And we work a lot with our mentors.
The other question I have is, how do people react initially to the cost of the program? Because I think that would scare away most people that I know.
I think it depends on what you value. Like, I think, being raised in a frugal, lower social economic background, I can see where you're coming from. But the truth is that most people, their health is costing them a lot of money. It does. It was costing us a lot of money. And you can do, a lot of people are willing to do a lot of things. Matt just posted something that are less expensive, but they're also less effective, My mom used to tell me the story, the old catalogs had a good, better, best system. So you can pay very little for a decent system that doesn't have a lot of results, or you can invest in your health, get to where you want to be, and then maintain it. And so, there's a lot of times if people want to get healthy, people invest in what they want. I've seen people who have no money get their nails done every other week because that's what they want and it's what feels good. And I'm not judging them, but that we invest in what we want. Tony, did you have a question
I
or
was
thought?
just gonna say that reminded me recently we moved into a house like less than 2 years ago, and the yard was the last thing to go in, and we went the cheap route. And just this year, I told my husband, I'm like, I hate going outside. Our grass is stiff, it's ugly, and it's just not a fun place to be. So we talked to a landscaper to come out and see what he could do to fix what we have. And he's like, I see this more often than not, where people don't want to invest. And he's like, you get what you pay for. And I'm like, that goes for every aspect in life. When we did our health assessment, my husband, his initial response to the reaction, or to the cost, was like, oh boy. Which is funny, because I was thinking, you're totally worth it. And we found out our health savings card would pay for it. And so that was like, no question at that point that we would do it. But the interesting thing is, we only used our health savings card for a couple of months, and then it just became part of our budget because it's food you're eating, and it was making him healthier. His doctor was super impressed with him, and no longer had to pay for medication to treat his high blood pressure. That was gone. So it's right, if your why's high enough, and I was ruling people out when I began to coach. My own parents, I was like, there's no way they can afford this. They made it work. And my mom's like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my life. You just never know.
Yeah, you never do know. And so that's been the hard part with me is to not, like Tony said, not to judge somebody else, to think, oh, well, we know they don't have much money, they can afford it. That's for them to decide. That's not for me to judge for them. And so that's been a little bit of a, like I said, another mind thing you got to kind of get over. And you're just there, you're not there to sell anybody. That's not what we're here for. I hope nobody feels like we're trying to sell anybody anything. It's really just to kind of share, this is what we've done, because people have asked, and if it's something great for them and will fit with them, they'll either want to do it or find a way to do it, and if they don't, that's okay too. We'll still love them and still be friends with them, so it's not a big deal. And as Tony said, we actually probably save, when we figured it out, about $150 a month from what we were spending on meds, on takeout, on crappy groceries, on multiple trips to the convenience store for chocolate at 2 a.m. Or whatever it was. So we actually found our expenses have gone down by doing this, even before we decided to start helping others. And so
one of the other things I like about it is that it does allow for people who are interested in the program, and it, you know, maybe they are really good at budgeting, maybe they really honestly that's where they're at, that they can also, by sharing this gift, because it's a gift, and for like, if you told me that all I had to do to have a better marriage, to be happier, to be healthier, to be able to enjoy my life, to have the energy I had to do, was to invest that little each month, it would have been a no-brainer. And maybe not everybody has that much to lose, and maybe it's not that big of a deal for them, I don't know. But if it is, if it's something and there's no other way to control it, then it's worth it, and it allows for other people. So I've had other people who wanted the program, and so we help them by finding other people to coach, and it adds that self-reliance aspect. You know, we're members of the LDS Church, and they talk about part of self-reliance is starting your own business. That is absolutely part of the self-reliance church in the church that we go to, and so this is a solid plan, and we don't get benefits like if we sign up just for signing up more coaches. We don't get benefits from that. It's about helping you get your goals, and by helping each other we move forward.
like I said, these are just some of the kind of the starting out monies you can start to see. As you continue to go up in the company, I mean, those start to get some big numbers. We personally know our presidential director, who that number says 1.3 million a year. And they're not that far in between. I mean, there's quite a few of them actually that we're coming to realize and learn from. And so you can make this a real financial career thing if you want it to. We're not too far away from allowing Jen to quit her job and do this full time. And so that's what our goal has been. Because as Jen said, she works in a facility that's crazy at-risk teenage girls, and it's not a safe environment, in my opinion, from after some of the things that have happened. And so our goal is to get her out of there as soon as possible. And so that's why we're kind of pursuing this further. Like I said, we had no intention to make money at this, but it pays really well, and it's fun, and we enjoy it, and the freedoms it gives. We were at Disneyland last week, and I was doing calls with clients for 10 minutes and getting paid for it, and getting paid really well for it. So it's been amazing. And so we talk about coaching and how much you can make, and that if you wanted to do it, you can. Like I said, no one's required to do any of that part. No one's required to do any of this unless they want to. But the one thing I want to reiterate is with the main four components, with the health coach and the community and the education and the fuelings, you're not paying. Only thing you're ever paying for if you decide to be on our program, any of the versions of our program, is for the food that you're eating. You get the community and the health coach and the education system as part of that. So there's no fees, there's no contracts, there's no nothing. You do what you want with it.
One cool thing about the business plan I liked about Optimia was that they don't do any marketing or advertising. And all that money that would have been spent on all that advertising goes to the coaches, the real people who are doing the real work. And I was listening to a podcast, one of these older ones, and they said that if this program was for free, people would just waste it. Because it's when you make that sacrifice it's when you get the most benefit for yourself. And to hang on to that program and to keep pushing through to the end.
Yeah, that's very true. And when Nancy and Gina told me the cost, I don't even think I remember even talking to them about it. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I shouldn't have. That
Well, compared to weight loss surgery, I mean.
Well, that's true. Compared to what I was going to pay, that was a fraction of the cost. But to me, it didn't matter at that point. Because health-wise, I was willing to try to see if it would work. And I knew that if it didn't work in 30 days, I would send it back and get my money back. And if it did, then even better. Then that was a win in either direction. So that was it. But, so these are just some different people that you can actually see. There's Gina's pictures up here, so is Nancy's. I don't think anyone else is up there in this room today. These are just different people that we interact with and have seen success in the last couple of months with people, but there's thousands of them. This program is backed by over 20,000 doctors who actively share it with their clients and their patients. And what did they say? There's some 18 or 19,000 health coaches throughout the country, and that's not enough. The mission of Optavia is to get the world healthy one person at a time and to do it quickly. And so the company right now, over the last couple of years, is really just focused on being here in the U.S., but just started branching out overseas to other countries. So they've been around for over 30